Hey guys, Owen from Team Soulforge here, and this is my Angerblader premium deck. So, this is the latest version. I've gone through a couple of versions recently, but this is kind of what me and Con have actually concocted. Due to Aeon coming out, there's not really much change, but there is a few alterations. So, to begin with, we have, obviously, as our starter, Dragon Egg. V-Series Dragon Egg, all the usual shares. When rogue, draw a card, and if you go in second, get an order. Start with grade 3s. We have Angerblader at 4, obviously. Very easy to kind of go for. This is what you're trying to go for when you start up. You're wanting to gauge and get a good heavy hit in for Angerblader to either kill or get them close to death, so you can stride. So when you stride, you definitely kill them on your first stride. And to help with that, we have 3 Opti. His skill is very simple. When placed or attacking the Vanguard, you can gauge a rearguard. Now, just one thing to note, going XL2 on with him, when you ride him, the XL2 goes off first, so you draw, then gauge. Just as a little note on that. But definitely one of the pieces that kind of helps with getting gauges as much as possible. Just calling him will give a gauge to whatever's on the board. Okay, on to grade 2s. We are running 4 Megarex, a staple of gauges, as I have mentioned before. Excuse me. So, attacking the Vanguard, you can retire a rear to draw a card. Always good to kind of cipher through and get cards into your hand for good place and setting up and everything. I will admit this is a good card to kind of start with, to ride onto. If you've got Sweep, obviously you're not going to do the retire unless you've got something else. But yeah, always a better card in the late game than it is in the early, but it's a 4-off because it's something that you really want to see with kind of getting gauges up on the board. And obviously we have 4 Sweep to go along with the Angerbladers. And yeah, it's the best thing to kind of go with it. Obviously, attacking Van gives itself a gauge, and when it gets 5,000 for each gauge, and when it gets up to 3 gauges or 24,000 attack, it can be stopped. When I say 24, it means natural by his own skill. Any additional buffs do not help that. Just to clarify. So once he's got 3 gauges, he's naturally at 24,000. So that's kind of where he gets his resistance. And the way you're gauging so much, this is actually going to get some really high numbers. And it's always fun to do. And the final grade 2 is a way to give gauges. Turbo Smilodon. On place and on attack. Gives a rearguard a gauge. Just like Opti. There's not really much that can be said about this, but he's just like an all-around must-have for getting as many gauges on the board as possible. Next, on to the grade 1s. We're starting with 4 Zandi. definite help with the gauges. As an axe skill, so when you need to use it, you can either give a gauge or move gauges to a unit, and for an extra little bit of power, you counterblast one for 5k to the unit you gave the gauges to. Really fun card to play, and I'm going forward, this is more than likely going to be a pseudo staple, if not a staple for gauge builds. And next we have for Sonic Noah, another definite staple in gauge builds. Yes, I ran out of 3 in one build, but I've actually tweaked it. It's been a really good, it's kind of, I would say it's 3 at least if you're going to play it. I mean, 2's okay, but if you need to see this in gauge builds, because when it boosts a unit, when it boosts a rear guard, it gives that unit a gauge. And then if it hits a Vanguard, whether attacking or boosting, you retire one and draw a card. And you have a few cards that you can kind of stack to get a little benefit from. But it's kind of like a good pressure card for Tachikaze in all. Okay, next we have 2 elves in Lacerate, Robario, and Prison Bird. Just to quickly run through the skills, gives yourself a gauge on place, and if it's retired in any way, Soul Blast and add the gauge to hand. For a Soul Blast, it gives a unit a gauge, and that unit gets 5,000 power for each of that unit gauges at that time. And when a new gauge is put, it gives itself 5,000 power, and it's your grade 3 searcher. Check top 5, search for grade 3. If you find one, if you find one and add it to your hand, discard a card. Very simple, very easy. These 2 were... there were different varying numbers, but this is what I've gone for in this lineup. And for my triggers, I am running the Rainbow set in crits, stands, draws, and heals. This is the Stride crit, this is the Stride crit up in Verfa from 2020. You got your Sentinels, obviously, for guarding power. You need to be honest, the heals are definitely something that's needed considering what G Guardians we are using. And for Cole Magnum, for the for extra draw, stand power. On GB1, it's actually a really good skill because when it's retired through varying means, be Mega Rex or Neveros or Mega Rex Noah or going for the Engorge on the strides that I've got. It puts yourself to the bottom, you draw a card, give a unit 5k, and then you shuffle. Really fun to have kind of stands in the deck, because if you can hit one from Angerblader, it's actually quite funny, because like if you're if there's a unit that didn't stand with its ability, getting a stand trigger is really good, because you can actually kind of stand a booster or something that can't really do much. But yeah, it's that's my trigger lineup there. Next on to the strides. We are running obviously for Neveros, the main stride of this deck. It's what you want. It's what you're probably going to stride into very on the first. Yeah. So whereas it's basic. It's really fun. I mean, it's got the Engorge, which is retiring any number of units when you swing, but to be honest, you're only going to be retiring one. For maximum ability. When that happens, you can retire 2 of your opponent's rear guards, any 2. So fun. And then you retire gauges and or rear guards to restand him with no loss in drive checks. So you're swinging with 3 drive checks both times. And when it's up in the face up in the G zone, you can Soul Blast and give a unit a gauge. And if that unit does have Engorge, which none of my main units do, if it has Engorge, it gets the Engorge skill activated. And next we are running 3 Gantiraptor Angerblader V2. Basically, it's really good. When you call a rear guard from your hand, you can put 3 units from the drop zone as a gauge. And when it attacks, counter +1, flip up a G unit to stand all units with 3 or more gauges, and then retire the same amount of units you stood on your opponent's side of the field. So this can effectively be a field wipe if you've got enough units with enough gauges. That's why this is a very heavy gauge build. It's always fun to it's always fun to get this off. I did run a card in the grade 2 slot. I did run Black Tops at one point, which was fun, to just gauge it up and then pop it and get a couple of cards back. Next up is Gaia Emperor. Gaia Dinos, sorry. Really obvious skill. This is a column wipe. So when it attacks, you engorge. And then when it becomes engorged, you choose one of your units, retire all units in that column. A really good thing to do, just to get a couple of pops off. And once that has happened, you can countercharge 1, regardless of your damage. And for GB3, if any of your units are retired, you can counter +1 and return that unit to the board. Now, just to make sure, that is 1 counterblast per unit. So, if you retire 3 through the engorge and the column wipe, you can CB3, bring all 3 back. But that is at GB3. It's usually something I'll go into for a backup if Neberos can't go off and there are some problem units on my opponent's side of the field. And finally, we have Gilgal, the progenitor for the Dragon Empire. Just very simple, can't be flipped up. And as an axe skill for TB2 and a Soul Blaster 1, it can attack every single one of my opponent's units. And for each unit that was hit, it countercharges. It's definitely something that can go against, that's good against certain decks that are very heavy, like a lot of aggro, really good against other XL clans. And on to the last. This is Seabreeze. Seabreeze does Seabreeze things. Basically, if you're playing the grade 2 game and you can get the drop on your opponent if they haven't ridden onto grade 3 and they've stayed there for at least one turn. If they're on grade 2, didn't ride, you can CB2, discard a card, and call this guy out, and ride this guy out. It's obviously it's anti grade 2 game, but who plays the grade 2 game these days? But I'm keeping it in here because it's a good card to just in case. Excuse me. On to the G Guardians, starting off with Bullish Primer. Primer's definitely one that you'll want to kind of play really smartly. It's GB1 on place, on Flipper G Guardian, and it gains 5,000 for each of your open rear guards, open rear circles. So it can get a lot of numbers. I mean, I've been playing this at least 2 ever since I was playing Premium Tachi. Because of the amount of stuff you just get off the board. If you can actually kind of like, if your opponent's just wiped you out and after never rush, you just flip this down. Oh look, it's got a huge number. And next we have Chuganga. Fortunately, this isn't GB restricted, but it does require you to retire a rearguard, and then retire a rearguard, and then choose 2 units to return to your hand if they are retired that turn. A good combo is like having a unit that you want in your hand and having it bounce with one, and then retiring it with the other if you need to kind of like get guard enough. And finally, I've got the Dismal for key units such as Smilo, Opti, and mainly Sweep. So yeah, that's something that's obviously needing to keep in. So that's what I have at the moment. It's not as much as a glass cannon as standard, because I have other grade. I have the extra grade 3. I've got other ways, and it's not really mainly focused on Angerblader, but it is one of the main components. Going forward, I'm really kind of I know about the promo, and that will definitely probably be a 1 or a 2 or 3 of, but I will need to kind of manipulate the like sort out all the leveling out and all that stuff. Look forward to a Gaia premium deck profile coming out in the future. That is on its way, and there are a few videos from Connor as well that are going to be quite fun to watch. So until the next one, I will see you guys later. Bye.